Hi, everyone. When I got sober, a lot of things improved in my life. I stopped waking up in weird places. I stopped totaling cars, but I still had this real sense of not being whole. I still felt a sense of restlessness and emptiness, and it made no sense because things from the outside were looking good. Things were stable. Things were not the chaotic mess of alcoholism that they had been. And so it really made no sense to try to tell somebody. And also, all I kept hearing was just that I was depressed and to continue being on medication. Now, I'm not your psychiatrist, so if you're on meds, please talk to your psych about it. But if any of this sounds like something you've experienced after getting sober, you are going to want to watch this video. So, a core tenet of mystical sobriety that James Finley teaches in all of his teachings is this idea of depth deprivation. I truly believe that when people relapse, that this all still comes from the same core of this depth deprivation. We find ourselves saved from the depths of hell and we come back to the surface and we just don't know what to do with it. We've seen this darkness and the depth of that darkness in addiction, and then we're lifted up and put on shore and told, okay, there you go. So it's no wonder that we see people become workaholics or obsessed with their relationship and become codependent, or they become gamblers or overeaters, or they become obsessed with the AA program or religious fanatics, or they become mean and grouchy and full of resentment. And to be honest, I feel like I've done probably all of those in my 7 years of being sober. So I'm speaking from a little experience here. What I found when I was engaging in these other behaviors or ideas to make myself whole again was that it all just seemed very fleeting. It was very surface level for me. I had the job and the car and the new apartment, but what did it mean? So I just got saved from the depths of hell just so I could live in a nice townhome. Why was I so angry at people all the time? I was getting so resentful at people because all they kept doing was asking more and more of me. And I was getting burnt out. I really just felt like I was going through the motions, especially when I began to experience some pretty significant losses in sobriety. I just couldn't make sense of them. And I don't know that death is something we can always make sense of. I think that's just how God works, and it is what it is. It's part of life, is dying. But I was having a lot of issues grappling with, I witnessed these women doing the step work and following directions and having experiences and getting free. But in really reflecting on those relationships and the things that these women shared with me, I almost wonder if it was this depth deprivation that contributed to their eventual relapse and death. James Finley says, we skim over the surface of the depths of our own lives. And think about that. How many of us are just skimming through the surface of our own damn lives? Okay. He didn't say that, but I'm saying it. We're just so caught up in the external and the surface level stuff. We're never even getting into the depth of our own divine presence within each of us that exists. We are so disconnected from ourselves and from our own divine presence that we are naturally born with. It's no wonder we have such a hard time seeing it in other people, and we begin to really cause separation and division. We see it all the time. It's because we're so disconnected from our own selves. We forget to see ourselves in other people. And we are such a relationship and community-based type of creature on this earth. It's no wonder so many of us are walking around feeling so deprived and so alone. Not to mention all the science research coming out these days about people fighting loneliness. And even if we are alone, we can still feel whole, even if we are not extroverts in the middle of crowds of people surrounded by friends all of the time. There is still this wholeness that comes into play when we are able to connect with this divine presence that exists within each of us. God's oneness, this higher power, is not out there or up there, it's inside each of us. This is why we have to clear ourselves of resentments, delusions, and lies that we've told ourselves and that we've let ourselves believe in order to get into this divine presence of God that is within each of us. It requires this practice of sitting in silence to connect to it. And then when we connect to that, we are able to see it reflected out in the world. God's oneness with us is hidden in those very depths that we're just skimming over on a day-to-day basis. God is never not with us, it's that we are not with ourselves. When we are constantly distracting ourselves with what's out there, we're going to feel disconnected, fragmented, not whole, unstable, easily swayed, directionless, purposeless, and empty. Even when we have sobriety that we think we should be touting around, this is the end all be all cure for everything that's gone wrong in our lives. When we miss this, and it is such an inherent longing in each of us to connect with this within ourselves because it connects us to other people. When we are able to connect in this way, we really begin to enjoy the gift of our lives. When we are living in hyper productivity mode, workaholic mode, which is what I tend to go into, or we just emotionally shut down, or worse, we spiritually bypass and just go, it's okay, it's in God's hands, without really reflecting and sitting in whatever is hurting us, whatever is aching in us. And it can be beautiful things too. I cry at beautiful things, and I'm like, why is that making me cry? When we shut down in these ways and we don't let ourselves be present, we are bypassing the miracle of being alive. We are bypassing the purpose of why we are even here. We are bypassing the reason that we are sober. Thomas Merton, who James Finley learned a lot from, said, "You could die without ever meeting the person who lived your life." Well, imagine being on your deathbed and you never got to meet yourself. You were too busy putting on a performance for your coworkers, your parents, your lover, your friends, people you will never meet, but you are somehow subconsciously trying to impress. The person who traumatized you, the person who left you, the person whose love you want more than anyone's. When you have your own love, your own connection to that deep, unconditional love that exists within you because of God, you'll see that you don't need the external validation. You'll see that your life is not as rocky and as shaky as you think that it is, or that you feel that it is. Until we can sink into our own presence through silent meditation, sitting for at least 20 minutes a day, we are only going to live through this persona or mask, this projection of our deepest insecurities, of all of our fears, of this imagined person of who we think we are or should be for other people. Through mystical sobriety, as we continue on this journey, it's just a coming home. It's a homecoming to your soul. Yes, you got the hard part over, which is the sobriety. It's that removal of the substances, of the drugs, the alcohol, the compulsive behaviors. Now let's get to the soul we'd abandoned. Let's return home to ourselves now that we're clear of that stuff. You're going to hear me continue to harp on this, but we get there through the stillness, through the silence, through the presence. A huge red flag for me is when I begin to think that I don't have time to do stuff. When I start being in a hurry, I will slam on the brakes in my life and sit. If I start to get really overwhelmed and I feel fractured and fragmented between work stuff, personal stuff, creative stuff, family stuff, relationship stuff, friend stuff, whatever, all the stuff, Whenever I begin to feel that way, I sit down immediately and just remember the presence of God and just sit in that. One really great memory that I always had when I was a little girl, regardless if I was happy, sad, mad, anything, I would just run into my mom's lap and sit there. And I just knew that anytime that my butt hit her legs, she would just hold me. It was just how it was. And that's just how I feel now. I've sat on the floor, I've sat in my shower, I've sat on the couch. I will just sit in my car. Sometimes if I'm out in public, I will just leave or go to the bathroom and sit there by myself if I can, just to sit in the silence as much as possible. And sometimes the silence, it's not perfect silence. It's not, because trust me, where I live, it is loud. It is just that internal silence. It is just muting the inside so that I can feel the presence of God. Is this something that I can make you experience? No, it is a practice that you will get into. And when you are continuously and consistently doing it, as you go on, you will begin to see that presence that you're having in those 15, 20, 30, 1 hour time frames when you're just sitting there in silence. You'll begin to be able to carry that presence with you throughout the rest of your day. Do you understand how different this is from typical AA? Typical AA is just don't pick up no matter what. But when we're living on this spiritual axis now, when we're living on this other dimension, as Bill Wilson talks about in the 12 steps, when we're living in this separate consciousness of just the material surface world that we're so often primed for, the thought of drinking does not come. You're so whole within yourself that there is no need to go to the external for completion. This is the experience of mystical sobriety, and I'll continue to speak on this as we go through. And I'll also try to do some more practices that we can do together, maybe even some journaling prompts. But for right now, I just want to hear, what do you think about this? How does this come to you? How does this feel to you? Does it resonate as true? Whether you agree or disagree, I want to hear what you have to say. So please do leave me a comment, share, subscribe. I appreciate you.